get started. Meeting's in session. We'll do roll call. Mr. Kelly is here. Ms. Hanson is here. Mr. Dutel is here. Mr. Bolton is here. I'm here. Sharon's here. So the first thing is the extension request for the Soldier On project. And we have a letter from Northport Engineering. Mr. Lewis, with his apology for not being here tonight, and also a letter requesting the extension of the project. Letter indicates they're partially funded and that they plan to be back here this summer, I believe.
Yes, later.
Okay, so he just said, looking forward to meeting with you this summer to present the final version of the plan, so I assume that'll be coming sometime. So we need to open a public hearing, and we'll do that now at 6:31, and see if there's anybody that would like to comment on this extension from the public. Frank?
Well, I think that the extension is warranted, and if I'm not mistaken, didn't we vote now to have 2 years on a permit?
Right, but this was prior to that.
This is prior to it? Okay, so this extension would be a 2-year extension then?
No, it's under site plan review for extensions expressly, it's a 12-month period.
Okay. Well, as a citizen, I believe this would be appropriate to extend this another year.
Thanks, Frank. Anyone else in the public? Nobody else? Anybody on the board like to say anything?
Pretty straightforward.
We're all set?
I think it's a go.
I do notice they had their DES permit, which is alteration of terrain permit, which is good, so looks like they're moving forward.
Yep.
All right, so I would entertain a motion to give them their extension.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, so the extension is done,
This is to July 16th, 2017.
2017.
Record, yep.
All right. Now, we have some minutes to look at. May 5th. Any comments on the May 5th minutes?
Yeah, you got 3 people that are sitting on the board tonight that weren't here. That'd be good.
So we still have 4, right? Oh, no, we don't have 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have a simple majority.
Well,
So we can approve them?
with 3 people that can vote, we have to abstain.
Yeah, right, right, but you have a simple majority, it's minutes, it's not anything
Okay.
overly critical. It's up to you, you can wait, I mean, it's not rocket science.
So let's not, if there are no objections, we're gonna go ahead and motion to approve. Do we have one of those?
So moved.
Second? Someone please give me a second.
It's gotta have
John.
C.
Oh, okay. All right, if there are no objections, those May 5th minutes are approved. May 19th.
Steve, you were the second on that? For John?
John. Any comments on the May 19th minutes?
I'm in the same boat on that one.
We're all here though. Oh, you're right. Wow, that's kind of weird. Different spray. I move that the minutes be accepted as written.
I'll second it.
Okay, unless no objections, we're done with those minutes. Let's waste some time. Anybody have any new business besides me?
Rebecca does. I just got that email
Okay.
of yours, so do you want to bring that up after?
Yeah, you go first.
You go first.
So, next week, or next meeting, the work session, I would like to come to the meeting, well, I'll be here at the meeting, be here anyway. But, I took a hydrology class this fall, or this past spring, and our final group project was to, compare the hydrology of a urbanized and non-urbanized watershed, 2 different watersheds within the town of Plymouth. And somehow I volunteered to present that information with my professor, Mark Green, to the board. And if it's okay with everyone, I'd like to be on the agenda for that for the work session.
That works for me. As it turns out, Tara is on vacation all that week. She was going to provide the survey results to us. She'd like to do it later in July. So we didn't really have we had no agenda as far as I knew for the 7th. That would be perfect.
Just one comment. Did you find the name of that? Okay.
It's the unnamed brook.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Where?
Runs through Plymouth.
It goes from, I think just below Pleasant Street, under Highland, behind the high school, under Merrill Street, and then dumps into the Baker.
Is it perennial? No.
It's not very big, though.
Okay, well, John and I went to the planning conference 2 Saturdays ago, or last Saturday, I don't remember. Very good. I encourage anyone that has a chance to go. Pretty interesting. I'll just give you a quick update on some takeaways that I had. Lorraine Merrill's the Commissioner of Agriculture and Food for the state, and she gave a very interesting presentation, which I'm just going to touch on some highlights because it does pertain to the master plan, and we did get a pretty high response on people wanting to preserve agriculture in the town of Plymouth. There was a Granite State Future Survey, which is fairly recent. I'm not sure when that came out, but they had a 91% of people promoting local agriculture. 83% said farms and farm stands and forestry is an important part of the community, and preserving farms and agricultural land is 79%. So that's statewide. The 2012 agriculture census, the previous one was 2007. So statewide, there's a 5% increase in the number of farms in New Hampshire versus a 4% decrease nationwide. So we saw actually quite a few more farms in the state. However, not in Grafton County. And it's quite surprising. I spoke with, actually swapped emails with Lorraine today, trying to find out how many farms there were in Plymouth, because we don't really know. And they couldn't get us to the municipal level, but they do have a county farm census, which is interesting. Grafton County in 2012, 500 farms in the county.
Wow.
83,000 acres. Almost $30 million in products sold, and that is the second highest in the state. So even though we lost farms, we're still number 2 in commerce. So that's pretty interesting, I thought. And there's some more stuff. I'll forward this to you guys by email if you want to take a look at it. So other interesting things were New Hampshire is number 1 in the nation for organic sales as a percentage of all farm sales, which I always thought was pretty astounding. And it turns out that Pete and Jerry's is in large part responsible for that. However, they do subcontract and buy from lots of small family farms in the state, and that put those numbers up there. We're number 6 as far as CSAs as a percent of all farms, and number 3 in the nation for women as principals of total farm operators. A couple other little factoids on New Hampshire. Number 1 in the nation on direct market sales as a percentage of all farm sales, so that's direct to the consumer. Number 2 in the percentage of all farms that have direct sales. Number 3, direct market sales as a percentage of all sales, and we're number 5 in terms of the average direct market sales per farm. So we do very good on a national level. Between 1982 and 2010 in New Hampshire, we lost 25% of our cropland, we lost 28% of our pasture land, and we had an increase of 80% in developed land acres. Rockingham County lost a third of its prime farmland between 1997 and 2002. So that was pretty interesting, I thought, and I don't know how we can work that into the master plan, but it's food for thought. A couple other takeaways from the conference. The legal session was quite interesting. They talked about some of the other towns' problems, talked about sign ordinances. Actually, the U.S. Supreme Court made a decision, and the program presenter at the conference said, don't be enforcing your sign ordinance too heavily because it's probably unconstitutional. And so that's a very recent Supreme Court decision. There were some state court decisions having to do with accessory use of farms, and it was decided that holding weddings was not a valid accessory use for a farm, so.
They're going to restructure, I believe, the agritourism legislation because it's morphed into such a
Right,
hullabaloo.
that was
It
the
needs to be
decision, right.
pulled apart.
And it actually the state decided that it was not agritourism,
Right.
as it fit the definition that's in the state law. I attended an interesting session on climate change and how that affects planners. They had some coastal planners, and of course, it's a big issue down there on the coast, but also in Keene. And what's happened in Keene is that they've had a lot more severe storm events and a lot more flooding over the past years. They found that 80% of their culverts are undersized, so they're having a pretty major impact on the infrastructure in town. They're obviously in a different situation than we are here in Plymouth in terms of flooding, but I thought it was interesting that even inland they're facing those types of issues. The other big takeaway I had from the conference was that New Hampshire's demographic is going to change dramatically in the next 20 years. All of us are going to be a lot older, and planners need to be thinking about how they're going to take care of these old people in the state, where they're going to live, how they're going to access services, how they're going to get around town. And this kind of ties into a lot of the things we've been hearing in terms of transportation over the last few months, which is why I wanted to know Patsy's name, because obviously she's involved in that scenario. So thinking about that, thinking about people getting older and aging in place and how we can do that as planners. So that was just a quick trip report on the conference. The food was great, by the way, so that was a bonus. Yeah, that was important. I got a forward from Steve Whitman about the TAP program, Transportation Alternative Program. $5 million available for the state. It's fairly competitive, but not too bad. I talked to the program director today, and he said they had 39 applicants last year. They funded, I think, 14 or 15.
Not very many, because we applied for other things and didn't get it. Just as a note on that, I've been instructed by Paul Freitas to submit 2 applications for that. Transportation-wise, alternate routes, sidewalks, blah, 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 more
Okay,
pedestrian
so we have
oriented.
2 from the town side, right?
Yeah.
Does anybody know of anything with Parks and Recreation do they have any projects in the hopper that they have a number on?
Not that I've gotten wind of. Usually, there's communication, so I haven't heard.
Yeah. Well, I sent an email off today, but I didn't get any answer yet. So anyway, the odds aren't so bad, and you need a letter of commitment, and then they make you do a workshop, and then after that, you can decide whether you want to do it or not, do the formal application. That's all I have to report.
Good. Oh, just one more thing. As we all know, there was recent legislation passed, I think it was March, for accessory dwelling units. Yeah. And our ordinance is good, but it's not up to snuff vis-a-vis the requirements. But we do have a year, I think I've told you this before, we do have a year to implement a change. So that has got to be our number one amendment work item for, November, December, January, and then town meeting. But I don't think it's going to be very hard to craft, because we'll just look at the
Yeah, they did speak about that
legislation.
quite a lot in the legal
Well,
session.
that's
and,
vis-a-vis the age of population, too.
Yeah, it was interesting, because if it's detached, the town does not have to allow it. It's only attached accessory dwellings that
Right.
the town's required to allow.
Right,
By law, we have the option of allowing detached ones if we want, but,
right. So,
and there were all kinds of questions. Well, how about if somebody wants to put in 4 detached or 4 accessory dwellings, is that legal in the law? And they
yeah.
deal with it. Well, don't go there, don't even talk about it.
Head exploding stuff, yeah.
Yeah. But so,
Be interesting.
anyway, that was, it was interesting. I don't think there's anything else in the legal. No, that was it. Anything else? Do we have any other comments for anybody? Comments from the public? Do I have a famous motion to get out of here?
I would be thrilled. It's a beautiful day, beautiful evening.
A move to adjourn?
And someone will second it.
I just can't second that.
You can't?
I'll second it.
All right, we're out of here.
All right.